So my name is Steve Pelletier. I'm part of the Engineering Center North America, ECNA. Our US and our Canadian engineering team have recently joined forces, and now we are ECNA, and I represent the American division. Again, Steve Pelletier here. And today I'm going to be showing you what I built in-house, or what should I say, in my basement. This is the digital playroom, and we're going to be demonstrating our apps and the connectivity and all of our ecosystem in one, talking about the VCare app, talking about the Veto Guide app, and the thermostat connected to the boiler, and showing a little bit about the boiler's reactions to what happens in this ecosystem. So digital playroom, what is it? What does it have? So we have our Google Nest thermostat, brand new out of the box. You can see that it's powered from the boiler with the common 24-volt connection. We also have our VCare app on our iPhone, of course. On the left side, we have our outdoor air temperature sensor connected to the boiler. And we also have a switch to disconnect and reconnect, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. And last but not least, we have our Veto Guide app on our tablet, as well as a form for you to fill out when you visit, and come check it out and give me some feedback on what you think about the digital playroom. And last but not least, our shining star, the VitoDens 200. So let's wake up this beast, and we're going to simply do that by touching the HMI. And our camera woman is going to zoom in here. So right now we're looking at our home screen. So we have our menu button, of course, we have the boiler, we have our outdoor air temperature above the boiler. To the left, we have our target percentage. To the right on the top, we have our current modulation percentage. And below that is our boiler temperature. Of course, it's reading our indoor temperature because it is not filled with water, and we're just reading the ambient air like so. Now I'm going to disconnect the outdoor air temperature sensor, and in a brief second, you'll see that 3 dashes will appear indicating that it's disconnected like so. And now I can reconnect that by flipping a switch again. And momentarily, yes, it should show back up. Now, what I would like to also demonstrate is our connectivity with the thermostat. So I'm going to go into our menu here and show you exactly what happens and how the boiler reacts. So right now, there's no heating call. It's simply idling, waiting for a heating call. Our thermostat is not set high enough. So what I'll do here, you won't see it on camera, but I'll turn up the heat to a good 80 degrees, get us nice and warm, and the boiler immediately reacts. We have our status heating zone saying now it's heating, and our connected zone pump is on, and we have our flow temperature reading like so. I can also bring down our heating call, and then immediately it will turn off. So that is a little bit about the thermostat, and still looking at the HMI. So now what I'd like to do is demonstrate one of the faults here as I step behind our camera woman and throw it into our first fault. So this is the low gas pressure fault. And it's gonna, of course, throw the boiler into a fault. Now, if I share my screen with the VCare app, share content, share screen, start broadcast, and we should be ready to go. Now looking at our home screen, gonna go to our VCare app. And what's gonna happen is the end user of the VCare app will get a notification. And you'll see at the top of the screen, there is an issue with your installation. And at the bottom, we have a little icon saying there's a notification here. So we can click on that, and we can see what the error is. We have an error, and it's low gas pressure has just went off, and it's just now that it's been timestamped. So looking at our HMI, we can acknowledge it by hitting the check mark, and it'll bring us back to the home screen. Now we can check what that fault is on the boiler by hitting the little red triangle, go to the fault list, and in plain English, it'll show you what the error is. Now I can also resolve that because this is a soft lockout. I'll simply flip the switch again, and the boiler will resolve itself. And then there'll be a little bit of a delay, and on our app, it will disappear if I go back home, but until it disappears, I'll demonstrate a little bit about what vCare is and what we have in here right now. So right now at the top of the screen, we have overcast clouds. It's showing the current weather. We can open that up. It'll show the current weather. It'll show an hour by hour forecast of what that is. Also the precipitation, wind, and some minor details as well. And a little disclaimer here, this location is based on where your system is currently installed. So since we are located in Warwick, Rhode Island, that is where it's based out of. A couple other things, we can also check our gas consumption, but since this is only electrically connected, we're not going to have any gas consumption results, unfortunately, so I cannot show that off at the moment, but there is a daily, weekly, monthly, and annual report on your gas consumption. Also, electricity consumption. Since this boiler has been on for some time, we can see the electricity consumption over the past several days, weeks, and even months and years. And it's given in kilowatt hours, and it gives you a rough kilowatt hour per day at the bottom of the screen. Yes, okay, thank you. And now notifications, of course. Now we see that it's been resolved. Also timestamp for just now on the screen. And as you can see, we've resolved and caused a lot of problems with this, and that's because of the switches, but now it's been resolved and we have a happy, smiley system. Lastly, in the vCare setting, the vCare app, we're going to show a little bit about the settings. So we got my profile. You can check out my profile, edit your profile. Mr. John Smith lives here at the home address of 45 Access Road in Warwick, Rhode Island. We have our system. We have the name of our system, of course, the digital Playroom. And we have our product name, what it is, VitoDens 200, the serial number. And also very important to note is the serial number for the communication module. I will explain this in a brief moment. We need this to connect Vito Guide to the vCare participant. And we also have down here reboot communication module for brief troubleshooting. You can unregister your system here, as well as add an installation like Ben Jewell was talking about earlier today. What else do we have? Diagnostics. So we also have some diagnostics here that show current temperatures, the burner status, total burner hours, total burner starts, and the current modulation of the burner itself. I feel like I'm going pretty quick here, so I'll try to slow down. We also have some measurement choices, only between metric and imperial. Of course, we're in the States, we want imperial. And we also got a FAQ page. You can open this up, check out a bunch of FAQs, frequently asked questions. Most likely someone has already answered it. We can check that out. Again, with the connectivity, the contractor will have to use their Vito Guide app to connect with the vCare homeowner, and this is where that would show up. This is the company of that installer. And that is pretty much it for vCare. So now I'm going to move over to Vito Guide and flip the boiler into another fault. And while I do that, I'm also going to share my screen on here. Share content, share screen. And you'll notice the boiler is already in a fault. We'll get to that in a second. Start broadcast. And yes, want to continue. All right, so now we're at the home screen of our tablet. I'm gonna acknowledge the fault with the check mark. And again, in plain English, since we were just at the fault list, it brought us back to the fault list, and we can see that system pressure is too low. Now, if we open up our Vito Guide web, I should make note of that. Yes. Also, as the Vito Guide user, you will get an email notification about what system has gone into a fault as well. So that's why that pop-up just occurred. So once you open the Vito Guide web, you'll see all of your installations here. Of course, we only have one installation, so we're only going to see one here. Mr. John Smith, located at 45 Access Road here in Warwick. And I'm going to go ahead and open that by clicking on it. And hopefully it doesn't take as long as last time. Oh, much quicker this time. And we have our dashboard. We have a bunch of tiles here that show about the system. And down here is the communication module, like I mentioned before. Got our consumptions, electricity and gas consumption, a little bit about our system, and of course, the heating zone. Now, this is, of course, John Smith's location. We can show details in the top right here, and we can see what that fault is from here. If I hit this drop down, right, and then from here, we should have our spare parts app in the future. So close this. And we'll go back to all installations. So again, we're kind of at the landing page here with all of our installations. I'm going to go over to, right. So the user account is Victor Guide. He's our faux contractor here, Mr. Victor Guide, and we're looking at the installations. That's why that's grayed out here. And just below this, invitations, very important. This is what I was talking about when we need to make note of the communication module serial number, because when we add or try to create a new invitation, that is the information you need to invite a vCare user to join your list of installations. So here you would type in the module serial number, and then you can write a note to Mr. John Smith. Hey, it's Victor Guide. I'm looking to add your system. Have a great day. And from there, the Mr. John Smith will get a note in vCare in the app itself, and he can accept or deny your invitation. So what else do we have here? We also have settings, some basic settings, nothing too fancy. Notifications on or off. Of course, we want them on to be aware of what's going on. Units, and of course, your language of choice. Lastly, some updates. Updates here in the top in black, highlighted in black, is going to be the latest version that you have. And that's going to show some brief information about what was updated and some bullet points with what happened. And then as you scroll down, you'll be able to see previous versions of the app and what those fixes were and what those updates were. Goes back pretty far. So I believe that's most of it. Oh yeah, I didn't fix that fault. So now we should, yep, okay. So now the fault list is gone. You have a happy system, hunky-dory. Now, one last thing, of course, the feedback paper here. So when you come to visit, we encourage you to do once we get past this terrible COVID, you can come in person and you'll be able to give me some feedback on what you think about the Playroom. Just a few questions, some basic information, hit submit, and I would love to see what you think. I think that's about all I can say right now. So Vivek, I'll send it back to you.